Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have a viewer battle here today versus Sheepyboy 12. And if you've ever been out to the streams, you guys know that Sheepyboy is always the first to get onto that battle list, always the first to get onto the overflow list, always wants to do a multi-battle, and loves to do the hide-and-seek events in the biome in the Blueberry Academy. But today we're going to be doing a double battle here with him. And of course he's got Talonflame and Incineroar. I've got Indeedee and Hawlucha. Now first thing you have to take note here is that we've got the Psychic Terrain up. Our Psychic Seed has been activated, boosting up our special defense, and also as well activating our Unburden. Now, with the Indeedee, we're going to go in for the whole follow me scenario here. We want to redirect any moves that Talonflame could make into the Indeedee itself. We want to keep that bird Pokemon away from Hawlucha because we're going for the Terra of Fighting and going for the close combat into the Incineroar. Now, even though we are intimidated, our Terra change should be able to provide a bit of a boost in attack to the close combat move that we're going to do into the Incineroar. So as you can see here, we're going for the follow me. Fake out didn't do anything because we're on the Psychic Terrain. We're going to get the boosted close combat here, basically taking our attack stat, I'm hoping somewhat back up to even though we are intimidated, but we are going to lose our defense and our special defense. There was a bit of Rocky Helmet damage onto my Hawlucha, I believe due to the Incineroar. There's the U-turn coming in from the Talonflame, not necessarily quite what I expected, but they do receive some recoil from the Rocky Helmet that my Indeedee holds, which is actually quite helpful. Next Pokemon that comes in here is going to be a Gyarados. Now, of course, you guys can see here it's a nice shiny red Gyarados. Kind of reminds me of the Gyarados from the Lake of Rage in Johto, but that's completely besides the point. Gets the Intimidate off here. It's going to drop the attack stat of the Hawlucha even further, and then, of course, going to drop the attack stat of the Indeedee, which obviously is not really going to matter. Now, of course, in comes Breloom. Breloom is a grass fighting type Pokemon and actually is 4 times weak to flying. So pretty much the best option here for me to go for would be the Acrobatics with the Hawlucha because, again, it's 4 times damage. Plus, as well, we got the boost from not having an item. And then, of course, we've got the Helping Hand. And that's just going to take a one-shot right into the Hawlucha. And, of course, he has the Effect Spore, which is actually going to poison the Hawlucha itself. So that is 2 Pokemon out onto Sheepyboy's side. Here comes the Earthquake that is actually going to make contact with both of my Pokemon. Both of them still holding on, of course, and a little bit of poison damage in from the Toxic on the Hawlucha. Now, of course, Talonflame comes back in here. It is a Fire Flying type Pokemon, and if it has Gale Wings, that means that any of the Flying type moves should be able to go first. The more HP it has, the better. We're going to go in and lock in with the Acrobatics here, and we're going to select into eeny, meeny, miny, mo. The Talonflame. Okay, here we go with the Helping Hand. As you guys can see, Indeedee is basically going to play that whole support role here while Hawlucha is onto the field. Now, as you can see, that Intimidate, that second Intimidate, actually did some serious work onto the attack stat of the Hawlucha. Talonflame goes in for the U-turn onto the Indeedee, taking damage from the Rocky Helmet, returning back to the party here so that way he can send in a fresh new Pokemon. Or as I like to say, a fresh new victim. Okay, in comes Urshifu. Now, of course, this looks like the Rapid Strike, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a water type. And, of course, there is the Gyarados going in for the Earthquake here. So the Urshifu actually does handle that quite well, but it is able to pick up the KO on my 2 lead Pokemon. So now I actually have to decide on what Pokemon to bring in here next. So right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, well, I could bring in Iron Leaves, or I can bring in Goodra. Now, Goodra, of course, has some pretty decent defensive values, and that's basically why I wanted to bring that in here. There is also the Iron Leaves, which I believe should be faster than that Urshifu, if I'm not mistaken, or quite possibly around to rival it. Now, first thing I'm thinking of here is we're actually going to want to go either for the Psy Blade or the Leaf Blade. Now, both are going to be effective onto the Urshifu, but I decided to go for the Leaf Blade. And then, of course, we're also aiming in towards the Gyarados here as well. So something you don't see a whole lot of is Iron Leaves, and seems to be a pretty decent counter here to this whole Urshifu scenario. So Leaf Blade was definitely the right choice. In comes a Fire Blast from the Gyarados. I actually haven't seen Fire Blast on a Gyarados in a while, and that's actually kind of refreshing to see. So we get the Sludge Bomb off onto the Gyarados here, and it does a bit of damage. And in comes his Talonflame there once again to say, "Hello, Corey! I want to do some damage to your team." So we have to decide what we want to do here, and I mean, I've got a Grass-type Pokemon out here. I don't really want to take a Brave Bird to the face. So we're going to go for the Protect this turn in hopes that they don't actually take out our Iron Leaves. And he does have 2 flying Pokemon on the opposing side, so we're going to wait to see what happens here. Okay, here we go with the Acrobatics. Of course, it looks like it was going to go into the Iron Leaves. I'm not really sure why there's no Brave Bird. But out comes the Earthquake from the Gyarados here, and of course that is actually going to make contact with my Goodra. And of course, as you guys know, it is a Steel-type Pokemon, but we actually have some pretty decent defensive values. So we're going to go in for the Dragon Pulse here. That is going to be able to pick up the KO onto the Talonflame. And of course, that leaves Gyarados with 1 partner left. Now, of course, the Psychic Terrain has ended, so that way we can't actually get any more boosts from our Iron Leaves in regards to the Psychic moves. Fluttermane is actually the last and final Pokemon here on the party. And of course, we're just going to aim into those Pokemon right here. We're going to go for the Flash Cannon, of course, into the Fluttermane. That should be super effective, considering it's a Fairy-type Pokemon. Okay, here we go with the Leaf Blade. That is actually doing a good chunk of damage to the Gyarados. Now we have to remember that it is also a flying type Pokemon, so it's not just going to one-shot it there. Looks like it was a move into the Iron Leaves, and of course there was a Fire Blast into the Goodra. Goodra, of course, is going to survive regardless. It has so much defensive values and stats that I'm not really too concerned here. We got a decent attack off onto the Fluttermane, almost knocking it out. And of course, we're choosing the same thing again. We're going to try to go in and pick up the KO on these this turn. So in comes the Terrestrialization. So it looks like Sheepyboy is actually going to leave his Terra to the very last minute. It is going to be Terra Fairy. Now, of course, if he goes in for a Moonblast or a Dazzling Gleam, that's going to be able to hit the 2 Pokemon. Looks like we're going to be able to get this Psyblade off here before any of the opposing Pokemon attack. That's going to pick up the KO onto the Gyarados. And here we go. There's the Dazzling Gleam from the Fluttermane. Now, of course, that is going to be able to pick up the KO on the Iron Leaves. However, the Hisuian Goodra is going to be able to survive because we actually resist the Fairy typing. So that's going to be able to pick up the KO with the Flash Cannon, and that is going to be game. So Sheepyboy, thank you very much for the battle, as always, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the battle as well. Take care, have a good one, and peace out.